So, welcome everyone. My name is Jolyn Hall. If we haven't had a chance to meet before, my company is Edmonton 55, and I want to thank you so much for joining me today. So, today I want to help you understand how to decide if you should stay in your home or move from your home, because it's a question I deal with frequently in my day to day. So, for those that haven't had a chance to meet me, a little bit on who I am and why I have this background to talk about all of this. I was a registered nurse. I was a home care case manager for over a decade. And then I shifted into seniors housing. So, I worked on management teams in both non for profit and for profit, including opening a new residence in Edmonton about a year and a half ago. But I started Edmonton 55 2 years ago because I found people were still struggling about housing choices, whether to stay at home, to move from home, and what that transition looked like. So now I provide consultations to people whether they want to age in place in their home or whether they need to make a move. And as part of that, I did get my real estate license so that I can really help housing A to Z, because so many times our decisions are based on what happens with our home. So today I want to review a couple definitions on what is active aging and what is aging in place, just so that we can have clarity as we use those terms. I want to review how to know when you should stay at home and know when to make a move. And then we're going to review a little bit on how our brain makes decisions, because it's funny how our mind is supposed to help us, but sometimes it's a hindrance. And then finally, how to choose the best option for you. So my goal is today is that you have the tools you need to have this conversation with yourself, with your loved ones, to just have a starting point to start moving forward in either a plan to stay at home or a plan to make a move. So let's get started. So, active aging, I really believe in active aging. It's really the best way to be, but it's not something that we teach or talk about. So, active aging is about staying positively engaged in all aspects of life, which ultimately leads to both benefit the individual and the broader society. So, it's really at the end of the day about being in charge of your decisions and not just passively aging, where we just let life happen and we wait for people to take care of us and we wait for others to make decisions for us. It's about being an active participant, being educated, researching options, and making decisions for your best life. Aging in place. So this is the federal government's definition. Aging in place means having the health, social supports, and services you need to live safely and independently your community for as long as you wish. So in typical study, it's vague. And so this does cause a lot of confusion because people are like, well, what does aging in place really mean? It means that you need to be safe and independent as long as you are able. The place actually doesn't matter because aging in place can happen in any type of living situation. It's about keeping your safety and independence for as long as possible in whatever form that may look like. So that definition has three elements. It's having the health, the social supports, and the services to age in place well. So when we talk about staying in the home to age in place, we need to actually address our ability on all three of these elements. So let's take a look at how these relate to deciding to stay at home. So, health needs. Is your home safe for you? I met a lady this week that can no longer walk the stairs to her upstairs bedroom, nor can she do the stairs to her basement in the laundry room. She is living in her living room in a chair. It's not safe. It's not ideal. It's not good. Um, Can you evacuate from your home if there was a fire? If not, then it's not safe. Could you move around with a walker or cane or mobility aid that you've been told you need to use? Do you or a loved one tend to leave the home and get lost and not know where they are? So, first thing we always address when looking at staying at home or moving is safety, because safety is paramount. If you're not safe, you're going to land in hospital at some point, and that's when decisions are going to be made for nursing home, and that's ultimately what everybody's trying to avoid. The next piece is your home accessible? So we're going to go into that in a moment, but can you again kind of safely move around without putting yourself at risk in your home? Can you access what you need to access? And can it meet your changing needs? And we're going to go into what that means as well. So when we're looking at health needs, we're really looking at safety, accessibility, and future needs. So when we talk about accessibility, I have a list of 150 elements in a home that I look at in terms of if it's a great home to age well in. And so these are just a couple of the pieces. But the truth of the matter is, in Edmonton and area, most of our homes are not designed for aging in place. So most of us will have to make a move, or we will have to sink some money into renovations in our home if that's our ultimate goal. So in creating an accessible home, a couple elements to be aware of. You should have 36-inch wide doorways. That's from the interior measurement, not the door measurement, because often there's a couple other grooves sticking out. But that's because if we ever need a walker or wheelchair, we need 36 inches so that we are not scraping our knuckles as we go through that doorway. And so it's really important that we look at having those width of doorways, or can we make some renovations to widen doorways? Having a fully accessible entrance. So many of our homes have stairs to the front and the back doors. So can you change that out? Can you put in a wheelchair ramp before you need it? Can you, instead of replacing the concrete stairs, do you replace with a concrete ramp? What can you do if you've got an entrance that's on a lower level that's easier to access? How can you grade that or manage the sidewalk to eliminate steps so that ideally with a walker or wheelchair you can get into your home? Wide enough hallways to maneuver and move freely through the home and turn around. One flooring type throughout is a really big deal. I get so many of us have renovated our homes at different times. And, at one point we put in a hard flooring in our kitchen and dining room, but then we put in carpeting in our living room and hallways. For accessibility, we really want one flooring type, one consistency, no transitions, no bumps is really what we're looking for. And on the main floor, we need, as well as a kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, and laundry facilities, because we never know when stairs are going to become something that we can no longer manage. And you need to, at least on that main level, have a zero entry or walk-in shower. Zero entry means that you can roll a wheelchair right into it. A walk-in shower usually means it's a 1 to 2 or 3-inch step into the shower. And those can do us for quite some time too. There's a whole host of other things that we may need to look at to make our homes accessible to age well in. But this is the starting point to at least get you thinking. Then when we talk about future needs, we're talking about these 8 what ifs. These are the major reasons that most people are forced to leave their home. So if we plan for this and we know our home can successfully manage these needs, then we're already way ahead of the game. So if you broke a leg or hip, again, that's really accessibility. Could you use a walker? Do you have an accessible front entrance? Is everything on the main floor? If you broke your arm, that's more looking at your bathroom and your kitchen areas. Could you maneuver and work through those spaces if you had broken your arm? And then for using a walker and a wheelchair, again, we're really talking about accessibility there. And a slow debilitating disease. I work with a lot of people that have um, Parkinson's, that have uh, arthritis, that have all sorts of different conditions. And so with those disease states, we can actually kind of predict what our future needs are looking like. And so can your home meet those future needs? If you know you have Parkinson's, chances are you will have a walker or wheelchair at some point. So have you made those modifications? If you know you have bad vision, have you made the modifications in your home so that you can learn those new elements in your home while you have the vision so they can support you when you lose the vision? So it's just looking at those slow debilitating diseases, because oftentimes they come to a point where we have no choice, but we're forced to move unless we've planned ahead. Loss of driver's license really affects people in Edmonton and area because we are such drivable communities. We don't always have the best community transportation. So when you look at your home, are you in the right neighborhood? Can you walk to groceries and your pharmacy? Can you easily get public transportation if you lost your driver's license? Because sometimes the only reason we need to make a move is to change the community. We've already talked about decreased vision. It is a really difficult piece, making it hard to stay in our homes. And then a death of a spouse or caregiver can force us to leave our home simply because sometimes we're so interdependent on them. And so knowing what support our spouse or caregiver gives to us, and is there other services or things in place we can put in case something happens to that person to keep us safe in our home. So if your plan is to stay at home, you really need to plan for these 8 what ifs: a broken leg or hip, a broken arm, using a walker, using a wheelchair, having a slow debilitating disease, losing a driver's license, having decreased vision, or the death of a spouse or caregiver. Those are the plans we put into place so that we can age well. So as we continue looking at health in our home and our ability to stay in that home, we look at those future care needs, going, can home care meet your needs? Right now, Alberta Health Services provides 3 to 4 hours a day for care at their absolute maximum. We are seeing writing on the wall that in the next year to 2 years, that maximum will be 1 to 2 hours a day. And so, can home care keep you safe and well at home? Or do you need to look at private services above and beyond that, either now or in the future? And can you afford that? Private nursing services are often billed in the range of $25 to $35 an hour, even higher for more professional services if you need a registered nurse or licensed practical nurse. So many people haven't done the calculations to know if they plan to age in place at home, can you actually afford any care you might need? Because we need to keep looking ahead. We may be fine and not have any care today, but if something happened tomorrow where you had a major stroke, can you afford the care you might need if it's above and beyond what home care would provide? And then part of that health is accessing health services. So if you broke your hip, if you lost your vision, if you had a stroke, what is your plan for accessing health services? Things like your doctor, your lab work, your dentist, your optician, all of those sorts of things, because many of those services will come to your home, or you can choose mobile service providers. But again, you need a plan for those things. So that's addressing health for aging in place at home. So if you're deciding to stay at home, it's also looking at, can your social needs be met? Are you getting out at least once a week to meet with friends, either to meet with friends, to go to a senior center activity? I know we can't right now, but are you going to your church? What are you doing to get out of the home once a week? Because our social needs are so important to us. If you are not getting out of the home, it now becomes a prison, and it's not necessarily the right place to age in place. So you always need to be able to get out at least once a week. And once a week, you need to have people come in. And the reason why I say this is because sometimes it's easy to stay in PJs. Sometimes it's easy to not do our hair. Sometimes it's easy to not clean the house, but having people in is good for our well-being, because it kind of forces us out of that funk to do our hair, to get dressed, to be ready, to have the house tidied, to do the dishes, things like that. And then the last element on social needs is transportation access. If you're driving now, fantastic, but what is your plan for losing that license? How will you get to see friends? How will you go to see friends that might be in hospital? How will you get to your church? How will you get to your senior center? If your plan is to stay at home, you need to have a plan for transportation. So our social needs, the research is showing us more and more that we must have good social connections to age well, especially in our home. Once we lose those social connections, or we don't have those social connections, then oftentimes our health starts to fail. So our social needs are really important. And then the last element of aging in place is services. So if your plan is to stay at home, do you have the connections for contractors and health services to help you as you cannot do things? That's housekeeping services, meal services, grocery delivery services. It's things like having extra access to people to do renovations in your home and things of that nature. So do you have the connections for people to do some renovations, to fix things in the house, to do the lawn care, the snow care, the things that you cannot do? And same with health services. Do you have any of the mobile health service providers you need to stay healthy and well in your home? And then we come back to finances all the time. Can you afford these services? I meet people all the time that are saying they want to age in place in their home, but they know their roof needs to be done and they can't afford to do it. Well, at some point, you're going to have mold, you're going to have rot, you might have a major leak. If you can't afford the maintenance and preparation for it, how will you manage that catastrophe? You are better to get out of that environment into something different. So if you can't afford to maintain your home, take care of your home, or have these connections come in, then home may not be the best place for you. And then how will you manage changes to your home? When we were talking about accessibility, is your plan to do a little bit of renovations bit by bit, or are you going to wait until you have that health crisis, that stroke, and then have to wait in hospital for a month or so while those renovations happen? Changes to your home environment and plans for staying at home have to happen before the crisis does. So there's a lot of work that goes into aging in place that many people don't consider. It doesn't magically happen. You have to plan for it. So as I mentioned, you need to have a health plan, a social plan, and a service plan if your goal is to stay in place in your home. So as we went through asking these questions about, is your home accessible? Do you have access to contractors? If you answered no to these questions, then you have kind of two options. Either go and start doing the research and fill in the gaps of knowledge for that information, or you can start to turn on any, if you answered no, your options are to do the research. And if you're not prepared to do the research, then maybe you should be looking at a move. And so that's really where we're going next, is if staying at home isn't right for you, what should you look at if you're considering making a move? And what I want to reinforce with people is moving isn't always about moving to either retirement living or nursing home. Moving is about finding the right option for you to age well in. And there is a lot of options that people don't often consider. So you can simply downsize or change homes to something more accessible and something more appropriate for your needs. And sometimes it's just moving to a community so that if you lost your license, you are in a walkable neighborhood. But then beyond that, if you're feeling you need a little bit more help or assistance, or you're just wanting to plan for the future, a move can be to an adult bungalow, to a condo, to a senior's apartment, to a lodge, to supportive living, designated supportive living, retirement living, independent living, assisted living, memory care, nursing home, and long-term care. So sometimes part of our age in place plan is having plan A, B, and C, and possibly more for different stages and levels in our life of different services we may need. So if you hate moving, I'm one that hates it. But if you're in that same boat, then you want to plan one move that's going to meet many changes down the road. So you want to make a leap. When you make that one move, you want to jump far in so that you can choose something that you can age well successfully in through multiple changes and multiple concerns. If you're fine with moving, or at this point in time you're fine with it, then do smaller moves down this list. And then know that you may need to do some successive or additional moves down the road. So this is a common phrase I talk about. This is 25 years of experience that if you're thinking you need to move, you're probably already too late. And so we're going to go into how the mind makes decisions. But I would say about 85% of the people I meet in my day tell me that it's been in their plans to make a move, but they haven't done anything about it for 2 years, for 5 years, for a month, whatever that was. And if you're thinking about moving, the next step is really putting a plan into action, because I'm going to show you what our mind does. So our brain, through generations and hundreds and thousands of years, we are programmed for comfort and familiarity. Our brain will always, always choose comfort and familiarity first. Which means if we're thinking, oh, should I stay at home or should I move? Your brain automatically is going to go, I know where I live. I'm comfortable here. I like it here. Everything's in its place. I don't like disruption. I'm going to say we stay. Because our brain will always go that way. Our gut feelings are actually designed to keep our brain in check. So start thinking about decisions that you've made in your life recently. Usually, your brain thinks one thing, and then there's this gut feeling that thinks something else. So you may be as simple as in the grocery store with a grocery list going, I have X, Y, and Z I need to purchase. And so your brain knows these are the 3 things you're going to purchase. But your gut feeling comes and going, ooh, watermelon, want, really want watermelon. And it's going to interrupt your brain and go, let's think about watermelon. That's what our gut feelings do. It's an interruption and a check to our brain. So when our gut feeling says it wants watermelon, our brain's going to do two things. Would watermelon be a good choice? Can I afford watermelon? What do I think about watermelon? And then your brain is going to respond to those questions and make a decision going, yeah, haven't had watermelon in a while. I love the taste of watermelon. I can afford watermelon. It's right here in front of me. Yep, let's pick up watermelon. So our gut feelings influence our brain. When we are struggling, when we are overwhelmed, when we are not coping well with decisions, it's because our gut feeling and our brain are doing this. They think two different things. And that needs to be a sign to us that something's up. Because when we know that our brain will always choose comfort and familiarity, and our gut feelings tend to be a little bit more intuitive, tend to be a little bit more from our subconscious, and it might look something like this. Our brain says, yep, I want to stay at home because this is comfortable, this is easy. I know it, it's familiar, it's figured out. And then our gut feeling and our subconscious feelings are going, yeah, but those steps to the basement laundry room are getting really hard. And yeah, I'm getting really tired of cooking. Yeah, I don't have as many friends in this neighborhood. We need to listen because our subconscious usually knows more what we need than our brain actually does. And so many people I meet are saying, well, I'm struggling, I don't know what to do. And usually it's that their brain and their gut feelings aren't in alignment. And how we bring our conscious and our subconscious into alignment is actually through planning, because our brain likes a plan. And so if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling not sure what to do, I'm going to challenge you to put a plan into place for either staying at home or making a move. Because once you put that plan in place, the brain and the subconscious settle down. There's an easy path to follow, and it doesn't feel so overwhelming. So the biggest part in making a decision, whether it's to stay at home or whether to make a move, is having confidence in yourself to listen to your brain, to listen to your subconscious, and bring them together with a plan, being realistic to you and your circumstances. But that's how we stop that cycle of overwhelm. We just keep going in circles and circles and circles if we let our brain and gut feelings be disconnected. I want to remind you that in your life, you've been 100% successful at moving forward, always. You may have had learnings along the way. You may have regretted some decisions, and you might have had to course correct a couple times, but you were always moving forward, and age doesn't stop you from moving forward with plans or planning. You've always known how to take care of yourself, and that doesn't stop now. So be in charge of your decisions, but take those uneasy feelings and put a plan in place, because that's the only cure for the uneasiness. So how do we start creating this plan? Whether your plan is to stay at home or whether your plan is to make a move. So this is where things get real. Can your home meet your current needs? If you are already struggling with stairs, if you are already struggling with laundry rooms in the basement, if getting in and out of the bathtub isn't working, then something is not right in that plan to stay at home. And either you need to research and find the resources or make the renovations to make it work, or you need to shift plans and look at moving to a different environment that will meet those needs. How long can it work? Because the reality is your home or even another move could work for your needs right now. But we always want to be looking ahead with aging in place, going, what else could be coming down the line for me? Is my mobility starting to get harder? Is my memory starting to get more difficult? Is my eyesight getting more difficult? Whatever that may look like, what does the time frame roughly look like? None of us have that crystal balls to go, I'm losing my vision in 5 years. You might be fortunate to have a diagnosis that can give you a time frame of what to expect, but oftentimes even the medical community can't give us timelines. And so all you need to do is know that, okay, this situation, this staying at home or moving to an apartment is going to work for this amount of time. And this is what I need to plan for the future down the road. For those of you, I'm just going to go back. For those of you that have been to other presentations, you know how much I preach about knowing your monthly and yearly costs, because you can't make a plan without knowing what you can and can't afford. So many times I'm helping individuals in hospital that have been told they can't go home. They need to find a new place to live, often in a week or a little bit more, sometimes less. And one of the first questions I have to ask is, what is your budget? Because there's huge range of living options, but I need to find what's affordable and realistic for that person first. And so many can't tell me. Well, it costs me nothing to live in my home. I can promise you it costs you a lot to live in your home. You just haven't added up the numbers. You're so accustomed to paying those bills, or those bills are paid automatically, and you haven't looked at maintenance and you haven't looked at taxes and things like that. You need to understand your monthly and yearly costs every year. Do a review. Always know those numbers. Know what services you can access in your community, or if you're looking at a move, what services that building, that community can provide. Because the more that you know about, the more successful you'll be at aging well. Know your support system. This is your spouse, your adult kids, your friends, your neighbors, those that can help support you. What are they able to help with? What are they not? I've had conversations with my parents to say, I can help you with transportation if I have about a week's notice, but if you need transportation tomorrow, my schedule is not going to have enough flexibility for that. They know it, I know it, we're all on the same page. And understand your limitations. If you need help making decisions, if you need help making a plan, if you need guidance into the right living option for you, ask for help. Whether it's from your family or a service provider, being stubborn to be independent is not the right way to age in place well. I want you to get the help and resources you need to start creating your plan, whether your plan is to stay at home or make a move. So, part of planning and part of dealing with that brain and gut feeling interacting is to give yourself a timeline. Timelines keeps us accountable. Maybe it looks like 2 years to make your home more accessible. Maybe it's 6 months to find a new living option. Maybe I'm going to move by the fall. Maybe I'm going to hire more services to help me at home by the spring. Whatever timeline you choose a realistic timeline that you're not going to go into crisis first, but choose a timeline to keep your brain and your gut accountable. Work one step at a time. So don't take on renovations and researching future options and researching services and researching and all these different things at once. Do one thing at a time and keep to your plan. A lot of times I've encountered people that, I plan to move in a year from my home. And I talked to them a year later and, yep, I plan to move a year from my home. Well, that's what you said last year. What have you done? Well, nothing. Well, what if tomorrow's the day you break a leg? What if tomorrow's the day you have a heart attack? What if tomorrow's the day you're in a car accident? And now those choices for where you live and what's happening are taken away from you, because I can promise you renovations to widen your doorway at a ramp doesn't happen in 24 hours notice. If you're planning to stay at home and you have not made those changes in advance to a crisis, then you will be forced to move from your home by your health. So whatever plan you make it. I've met many that said, well, my plan was to move in a year, but the year has come and I'm still healthy. Great. Still make that move, knowing that when a crisis does happen, you're in a really good space. So at Edmonton 55, my website is edmonton55.com. You're going to find a lot of resources. You're going to find articles on active aging and different ways to age in place or manage moves. You're going to find event calendars and future educational opportunities. And I do have a newsletter on being an active ager. So there's a lot of information and events and things to help keep you active, to keep you knowledgeable, to keep you in charge of your decisions. And a couple times a year, I create some worksheets that can be helpful to you in planning. I do stay-at-home consultations, so we look at those 150 elements to help you stay at home. I do get moving consultations to help those that know they need to make a move and need to figure out what the next move is that meets their goals and where that might be in Edmonton. So really taking down all the options and narrowing it down for you. And I am a seniors real estate specialist, so I do help older adults and those of all ages and stages buy or sell real estate, especially if you're looking for something more accessible or age appropriate. I've got quite the background and experience to help you navigate that. But also selling your longtime home. It's a really difficult decision to leave your home, and a lot of emotion comes with that. And so I've got the compassion and the background to understand what's going on in your life currently and help you navigate the process. So I'm just going to leave my contact information up here just for a moment. So if you need to jot any of it down, you can. You can most certainly contact me, phone, text, email. I do offer a free half-hour consultation by phone to just hear about what your concerns and situation is and to help give you some guidance and direction. And then my other consultations are paid from there. But feel free to reach out with me with your questions. I'm just going to turn off the recording and then I'd like to open up the floor.